Look closely. For the first time, we're seeing video of a woman retrieving a gun moments before she murdered her wife.
She had done everything right. Corneshia Butler, a mother of 4, sought safety in the one place she thought was secure, the law. She went to court, she filed for a restraining order, and she thought it would be enough. She thought it would be her shield. But what happens when that shield shatters? What happens when the very system designed to protect you, the police, the courts, the restraining orders, can't stop a determined person? This story will make you question everything you know about protection. No, seriously, this will make you question everything. Before we get into the details of this story, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you these important stories. In a moment, we'll tell you how a woman with a restraining order, a woman who did everything the system asked of her, still ended up facing a fatal threat. The question isn't just how this could happen, but what are you supposed to do when the law can't save you? Welcome to True Crime Footprint, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most terrifying true crime tales. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. In Atlanta, Georgia, Corneshia Butler was building a life filled with purpose. She was a mother, a friend, a person who filled a room with her energy. She cared deeply for her 4 children, and everything she did was for them. Her world was full of the everyday joys and struggles that come with raising a family, a world that she believed was her own. For 6 years, a woman named Shakiyah Perkins was a part of that world. From the outside, their partnership seemed like any other, but inside, friends and family knew a different reality. Their relationship was constantly on edge, full of problems that were always just under the surface. It was a cycle of conflict and reconciliation, a pattern that left those close to Corneshia feeling uneasy. For Corneshia, the breaking point came when she decided to leave. After years of turmoil, she ended the relationship, believing it was the only way to find peace for herself and her children. What she didn't know was that this decision wouldn't bring her peace. It would awaken a dangerous obsession in Shakiyah. Corneshia's attempt to walk away only made Shakiyah's focus on her more intense. The harassment began almost immediately: phone calls, messages, relentless stalking. But in October 2021, Shakiyah's actions escalated from harassment to outright destruction. In a dark, defiant act, she set fire to Corneshia's Mercedes-Benz. It was a clear and horrifying message. It was a warning that the end of their relationship was not an option, and it was a direct challenge to the safety Corneshia was desperately trying to create. The car, once a symbol of her independence, was now a pile of burnt metal. This was no longer just about a troubled relationship. It was a statement of control, and it forced Corneshia to ask herself a terrifying question. If this is what she would do to a car, what would she do to me? After her car was burned, Corneshia made a choice. She decided to trust the system. She went to court and did what so many others in her position do. She obtained a restraining order. It was a formal document, a legal declaration that Shakiyah Perkins was to stay away from her. For Corneshia, this was more than just a piece of paper. It was a desperate plea for help. She believed it was her shield, her protection from what had become an unpredictable danger. But the law only works if it is followed. Shakiyah Perkins ignored the order. The stalking didn't stop. It just went underground. The harassment continued. In fact, her actions became even more severe, including a claim that she attempted to run Corneshia's car off the road. The system, in its effort to help, had only provided a warning to a person who refused to heed it. Before the murder, Perkins was arrested and faced an entire list of serious charges, all related to her behavior towards Corneshia. She was charged with aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, terroristic threats, and arson.
Look closely. For the first time, we're seeing video of a woman retrieving a gun moments before she murdered her wife. She's now pleaded guilty to the crime, and Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie is live in Midtown Atlanta. Mark, there were allegations of domestic violence before the murder, but that suspect got out on bond.
Yeah, a prosecutor with the Fulton County DA's Domestic Violence Division says while the video shows the killer getting the gun moments before this murder, his experience looking at abusive relationships shows how often victims sadly stay in or return to a relationship even as the violence escalates.
In the Perkins case, it is a wife who kills her wife. There had been escalating violence.
In November 2022, Shakiyah Perkins shot out of the house she shared with her wife, Corneshia Perkins, stalked to her car, and came back with a gun in her left hand. Then Shakiyah shot Corneshia in the head and killed her, says Fulton County Senior Assistant District Attorney Travis Thomas.
Pretty soon after we showed that video, she decided to take the plea.
He says last month Shakiyah Perkins pled guilty to murder and more.
She ultimately pled to life with the possibility of parole. That was a plea deal that was offered. So she admitted everything.
Thomas says though they shared the bond of matrimony on the day of the murder, Shakiyah Perkins should not have been near her wife because Shakiyah was out on bond totaling $70,000 on charges of aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, terroristic threats, felony, and arson first degree. Conditions including must not come within 200 yards of the victim in those alleged incidents, which was Corneshia.
She tried to run Corneshia off the road in her car, and this all happened within months of this incident. Also, there was an incident where she set Corneshia's car, she had a Jeep, set her car on fire in a driveway.
Thomas says in the vehicle arson, a person believed to be Shakiyah Perkins can be seen on doorbell video in the vicinity of the fire. And in another incident, she kicked the door of a residence where Corneshia temporarily stayed. The prosecutor says charges relating to the alleged incidents before the murder were dismissed since Shakiyah Perkins agreed to plead guilty in the murder case and accept a life with the possibility of parole sentence. Prosecutor Thomas told us he's a former Army officer who did 2 tours in Iraq. But his work as a domestic violence prosecutor in Fulton County has showed him the toll escalating violence can take.
Recognize domestic violence and seek help. There's a lot of organizations out there that will help.
A transcript indicates the defense said, "My client has never been in real trouble before. You know, this was a toxic relationship that I think both families just wished that they had gone their separate ways. And it's just not what happened. They kept trying to work it out." District Attorney Fonnie Willis.
We here in Fulton County need to do what they've done all across the country and create a family justice center so the victims here, when they are going through this abuse, they have somewhere to go and resources to help them to rebuild their lives.
The court set a substantial bond of $70,000, and a strict condition was put in place. She was not to come within 200 yards of Corneshia Butler. It seemed, for a moment, that the system was finally paying attention. But then, Shakiyah was released. She was back on the street, and that strict order, the one meant to protect Corneshia, was nothing more than a few words in a legal file. The red flags were now impossible to miss, but no one saw them as an emergency. Stories like this can feel isolating, but they aren't. They happen in our own communities every single day. If this story is impacting you, kindly take a moment to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your interaction helps more people find these important conversations. On a Wednesday in November 2022, the day before the unimaginable happened, Shakiyah Perkins posted a message on her Facebook page. She wrote about starting again and forgetting the past. At the time, it might have seemed like a simple, reflective thought. In hindsight, it read like a final, chilling statement. A sign that for Shakiyah, her past was not something she intended to move on from, but something she intended to erase entirely. It was a Thursday in November 2022. For Corneshia Butler, It was just another day. The sun rose on her home, the place where she was raising her 4 children. She had gone through the motions of seeking legal protection, navigating a system that had, so far, offered little real security. She had faced the harassment and the intimidation, believing that if she just held on, the legal process would eventually take hold. But Shakia Perkins had a different plan. On that day, she did not arrive to talk or to threaten. She arrived to end the matter for good. She pulled her car up near Corneshia's home. From the front seat, she took out a handgun. The air was heavy with a feeling of inevitability. Perkins approached Corneshia, who was outside, and the confrontation was brief. The argument that ensued was not about love or closure. It was about possession, fueled by a jealousy that had consumed Perkins. The unthinkable happened next. Shakia Perkins raised the gun and fired, striking Corneshia in the head. The cruelty of the act was absolute, but the most horrific detail was that it happened in plain sight of Corneshia's 4 children. They witnessed the last moments of their mother's life, an act of violence that would change their worlds forever. The sound of the gunshot, the sight of their mother falling. It was a wound that went far beyond the physical. It was a trauma that would stay with them, a legacy of a mother's life brutally cut short. This detail was so significant, it led to a separate charge against Shakia for cruelty to children.
Should Corneshia Butler still be alive today?
I would think so.
But for a bail bond and perhaps a fatally flawed personal decision, murder victim Corneshia Butler might still be alive, says City of South Fulton Police Chief Keith Meadows.
We've been in this business long enough to know that violent behavior is progressive.
A City of South Fulton Police Lieutenant says Shakia Perkins has been charged with the murder of Corneshia Perkins November 16th and more. He confirms the victim was also known as Corneshia Butler, a mother of 4, the suspect's wife, that the couple had been estranged but reunited. But records indicate that's not the first time Shakia Perkins has been charged with crimes victimizing Ms. Butler. That in October of 2021, a judge ordered bond totaling $70,000 for Shakia Perkins on charges of aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, terroristic threats, felony, and arson first degree. Conditions including must not come within 200 yards of victim.
We would not want to see an individual get out on such a low bond given the history between these 2 individuals.
September 13th, 2021, a City of South Fulton police report contains allegations suggesting Shakia Perkins used her car to hit Ms. Butler's, attempting to push her off the road, then struck Ms. Butler's car again. The report indicates they were separated at the time. September 15th, 2021, a City of South Fulton incident report says Ms. Butler advised that Ms. Perkins advised she would come to her house to see if she had company. Ms. Butler advised that Ms. Perkins arrived and kicked in her door, cracking the frame. A South Fulton police lieutenant says September 25th, 2021, Shakia Perkins allegedly set a fire that engulfed 2 of Ms. Butler's vehicles and damaged her house as well. South Fulton Police Chief Keith Meadows says Ms. Butler showed police screenshots.
The Fulton County Police Department moved swiftly. Shakia Perkins was arrested and faced a new set of charges: first-degree murder, possession of a firearm, and cruelty to children. But for Corneshia's family and friends, the question was not about the charges. It was about the justice that had failed her before. But what happened next in the courtroom would shock everyone, and make some wonder if justice was truly served for all of Corneshia's suffering. Shakia Perkins did not stand trial. In November 2022, she pleaded guilty to the murder of Corneshia Butler. This plea resulted in a life sentence with the possibility of parole. For Corneshia's family, it meant the legal case was over, and the person responsible for her death would spend the rest of her life in prison. But the legal process often involves hard compromises. As part of the plea deal, all of Perkins's prior charges, the aggravated assault, the arson, the terroristic threats, were dismissed. The full pattern of her escalating violence against Corneshia, the clear disregard for the law and the restraining order, was never fully accounted for in a courtroom. The system prioritized a quick conviction over a complete understanding of the years of abuse. Corneshia Butler's story is a tragic reminder that a restraining order is not a magic shield. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can fail. Her journey offers 2 critical pieces of advice for anyone facing a similar situation. First, Trust your own instincts. While legal documents are an important first step, your own feeling of danger is the most important warning sign. If you feel unsafe, that feeling is valid. Don't wait for the system to prove it to you. Second, the legal system is not the only option. In fact, it often isn't enough. Seek holistic support. There are family justice centers, shelters, and support organizations designed to offer comprehensive resources, not just legal help, but a path to physical safety and emotional recovery. Don't go through it alone. Find a community that will protect you when the law cannot. This tragedy was completely avoidable, but the signs were subtle. If you rewind this video, you might catch the subtle hint that was there all along, showing how this tragedy was completely avoidable. Corneshia Butler's death was more than a personal tragedy. It became a public rallying cry. Her story spread quickly online, reaching people who were still grieving other high-profile cases of violence against women. The collective outcry was loud and clear, demanding not just justice for Corneshia, but a fundamental change in how the system handles domestic violence. This public pressure led figures like Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to speak out, advocating for a family justice center, a centralized place where victims could get every resource they needed, from legal aid to safe housing. This case showed everyone that fragmented solutions are not enough. We need a system that sees the entire picture. The story of Corneshia Butler is a reminder that domestic violence isn't always a hidden problem. The signs were there. The burned car, the restraining order, the list of prior charges. They were all ignored until it was too late. Her legacy is a painful one, but it carries a clear message. We must listen. We must take every warning seriously. We must provide victims with more than a paper promise. We must give them a real path to safety. If this story has resonated with you, please consider subscribing, and in the comments below, share your thoughts. Have you or someone you know faced a similar situation? Your experiences are important, and sharing them can help others find the courage to get the help they need. Corneshia Butler was a mother of 4. She was a woman who fought for her life and for the safety of her children. And in the end, it was those children who were left to live with the unimaginable. We tell her story not to bring back the pain, but to ensure that her struggle and the system's failure will never be forgotten. Her story lives on as a desperate plea for a more comprehensive approach, for a world where no person has to face such violence alone. Our hearts ache for Corneshia's family. Words feel inadequate, but please know you are held in deepest sympathy and prayers. May you find strength and comfort in the memories of Corneshia. Thank you for watching, for your attention, and for joining us on this journey of reflection. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and above all, stay safe. See you on our next video.